Hi everyone, my name is Nicole Parks. This is my case study presentation for AEP 855. My case summary and facts are these. Richard Inman is an assistant principal for Rocket Junior High School, and he's facing an ethical dilemma between two students. They're both expected to be expelled from school for possessing a weapon. However, only one of those students is completely to blame. James admits to forcibly giving the weapon to another more vulnerable student named David to hold for him. James honestly admitted it was his weapon and that he bullied the other student into taking it. However, a school police officer has arrested both students for a felony possession of a weapon. How can the principal advocate for James? The legal and ethical issues in this case are these. David and James were both minors in possession of a prohibited weapon on school grounds, a felony offense. No one was physically harmed by the action of this incident, thankfully. As of now, Mr. Inman is breaching school policy by not fulfilling directives to administer paperwork for the expulsion of David. David and his family may suffer the consequential ramifications of this incident. If the principal follows through with policy, David will not be able to stay in school and on track with his future goals. He will be placed at the DAEP for 45 days. My synthesis of this case. As educators, we are called to advocate for our students' rights to assure that they are entitled to fundamental fairness while under our care. I find this is my overlying theme and how I feel about this case. Fundamental fairness is simply looking at each child as an individual who deserves the right to be treated fairly. To synthesize the facts of this case, we have people involved. The people here are David. He's a 13-year-old student in the honors program, band member of a slightly build. We have James, a 15-year-old student, muscular, tattooed, a peer leader, does have past truancy reports and a history of fighting. Richard Inman, of course, is our first-year assistant principal. The school police officer was involved in this. He arrested David and James, and we have James's mother. We have the director of secondary education that asked Richard Inman to fill out paperwork for expulsion, and David's parents were also involved. Most of this took place at Rocket Junior High School, which is a large high school of population of 900 students. One of the programs that was stated in the study was the Disciplinary Alternative Education Program. To review and prioritize the information, most importantly, I wanted to state that the students should always be our most important stakeholders through making any decisions. Yes, policy must be considered, but an innocent student should now become an exception. Without further consultation and reparation, David and other students like David could suffer from this policy in the future if not amended. Consequently, the school committee, administration, and teachers could also suffer backlash if ethical and legal decision-making are not adjusted per the individual student's best interest. David is entitled to fundamental fairness, as are all of our students. David was not treated fairly in this instance. His position in the event wasn't even considered. Yes, this particular policy was devised for safety purposes, and I understand that. But policies can and should be adjusted under the advisement of informed stakeholders if necessary. Those with authority must wisely consider all aspects of the individuals involved before official decisions are mandated. So the options and possible consequences in this case. I've listed 5 here. 1. Adhere completely to the policy and expel both James and David for the felony possession. Both boys would attend 45 days at the DAEP. Number 2. Seek further consultation with committees of stakeholders. Provide the student history, background knowledge, witness and personal statements, etc. Propose amendments to the policy and advocate for change. Number 3, ignore policy completely. David stays in school, allow for official reprimand to be filed with personnel, suffer the consequences of the same fate occurring in future incidents. Number 4, wait it out. Backlash from parents will ensue. Local news stations, social media, community members, legal officials will exasperate the incident, causing possible further ramifications. Number 5, adhere to policy. Nothing official happens to the principal. However, from lack of his moral pursuit, bonds of trust and respect amongst fellow colleagues, parents and administration, and other stakeholders is weakened as a result. Evaluating these options, just 1 through 3. So, if we evaluate number 1 and adhere completely to the policy, this is likely to traumatize David's esteem and definitely harm his permanent record. It would cause hardship to the family likely, and the principal's integrity will also be in question. Number 2, by advocating for policy amendments and exceptions to be made based on students' right to fundamental fairness, one is likely to endure trial and debate that is sure to be challenging. This is, however, the morally and ethically best option for all involved. Number 3, by ignoring policy completely, taking your own stand as a principal, you're ignoring the team of stakeholders that rely on your leadership. You would be lacking as a role model of ethical behavior in personal conduct and relationships. Along to number 4, by waiting it out without properly handling the situation, others would be allowed the time to form opinions based on rumor alone. Without legitimate information, ill-informed reactions may arise, potentially creating even more problems. And finally, number 5, if the principal chose to adhere to policy alone, his personnel file would remain clean and in good standing. However, one's conscience would not reciprocate. With the lack of moral initiative, it is likely that fellow stakeholders and colleagues, along with oneself, would be lacking in the values of trust and integrity. The best option is number 2. Educators have a moral obligation to protect and advocate for all students. In order to treat David with the fundamental fairness he deserves, the principal needs to prepare himself. He needs to prove that David is worth the hard work of revisiting policy. He needs to demonstrate the capacity to evaluate the ethical dimensions of issues, analyze decisions in terms of established ethical frameworks, or communicate about and advocate for ethical and legal decisions. The principal can't do this alone. He must consult and collaborate with colleagues and district leaders. He needs to converse with the police officer that handled the case. Facts and histories, backgrounds, and personal statements need to be presented in order to put action into motion. This principal will prove to be a candidate that will use their understanding and capacity to undertake and implement this work within a school setting. Along with preparation and determination to advocate for David, stamina and heart will make all the difference here. Implementing the decision. The path chosen needs to be carefully and collaboratively pursued. The principal and his team of supportive stakeholders will need to present their unified vision to district representatives as factually as possible. This united vision should be focused on David and all students that David represents. Bullied victims and hardworking students in the district can receive the policy amendment considerations they deserve. Even though David will need to take responsibility for his part, his voice needs to be heard. He can take a vocal stance for himself. Doing this will likely cultivate ethical behavior in others. By taking his own stand and advocating for change along with administrative support, he can make a difference for himself and future students alike. Thank you.